The Gemini 4 astronauts saw an eye staring back at them. It was perfectly circular, and no one on the ground had a name for it. You are looking at the Richat structure deep in the deserts of Mauritania, a geologic bullseye 40 kilometers wide. So vast, you can only truly appreciate its scale from orbit. For decades, we thought we knew what it was. A simple, elegant explanation. But here's the part nobody talks about. That explanation might be completely wrong. The first theory was obvious. It had to be an impact crater. Look at it. The size, the shape. It screams asteroid. Geologists were dispatched to the site in the 1960s, expecting a straightforward confirmation. They were looking for one thing: shocked quartz. This is a type of mineral that only forms under the immense, instantaneous pressure of an impact. It's the definitive fingerprint of a cosmic collision. And now, listen closely. They found nothing, not a single grain. Think about what that means. The perfect circular scar, but the celestial weapon was missing. The official reports quietly dismissed the impact theory. So, what was next? Plan B, a volcano, a colossal ancient supervolcano that had collapsed in on itself, forming what's known as a caldera. This also made sense. The rings could be the remnants of ancient lava flows. A team went back armed with hammers and drills to test the rocks. The results came in. The rock was primarily sedimentary, laid down by water, not fire. Yes, there were pockets of igneous rock, but nothing to suggest a volcano of this magnitude. So now you have a mystery. It's not an impact. It's not a volcano. And you have one of the most spectacular structures on the planet, and science is 2 for 2 on being wrong. The current textbook explanation is a geological dome. The idea is that a massive bubble of magma pushed up the flat layers of rock from below, like a fist under a carpet. It never erupted. Instead, over 100 million years, wind and water sliced off the top, revealing the rings beneath like the layers of a giant onion. This is the official story. It's neat, it's tidy, and it's what most geologists will tell you. But they won't mention the inconvenient details. The almost perfect symmetry is unusual for a simple dome. The extreme flatness of the interior doesn't quite fit. The theory works. Mostly. But mostly is where the interesting questions live. While scientists debated erosion rates, others started looking not at geology textbooks, but at ancient history. They read a description written by the Greek philosopher Plato in 360 BC. He spoke of a lost city, a legendary capital made of concentric rings of land and water built by a civilization of astonishing power. He gave its location, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, in a vast flat plain, a place that would later be destroyed by a great cataclysm, and buried under mud and sand. Could the eye of the Sahara not be a natural wonder at all? But the 2,000-year-old footprint of Atlantis? The word itself conjures images of impossible technology and a sunken world. It's a fantastic story. But geologists deal in rock, not myth. And the rocks of the Richat structure tell a very specific story. Or so we are told. The official explanation, the one you will find in any textbook, is a geological dome. Think of a massive moving bubble of molten rock deep underground. A blister. For millions of years, it pushed up the flat layers of sedimentary rock above it like a fist risingly beneath a carpet. It never erupted. It just sat there, a huge buried bulge. Then, erosion got to work. According to the theory, over 100 million years, Wind and water acted like cosmic sandpaper, slicing off the top of the dome, layer by layer. And what you see today are the exposed edges of those ancient layers, the rings. This theory was solidified in a 2009 paper by French geologists Guillaume Matin and Michel Gebrac. It is, for all intents and purposes, the final word. Case closed, right? But here is where the official story begins to fray at the edges. Let's start with the shape. It is too perfect. Erosion is a messy artist. It carves jagged canyons and uneven plains. It does not draw with a drafting compass. The symmetry of the Richat structure, especially its three main outer rings of quartzite, is a statistical anomaly. Think about it. It's like finding a naturally occurring, perfectly square island. You would ask questions. Then there's the center. It is flat, unusually flat. Most eroded domes leave behind a core of harder, more resistant rock, a central peak. But here, there is nothing. It is as if the heart of the mountain was surgically removed. And now, pay attention to this part. The rocks themselves tell a more violent story than just erosion. All over the structure, you find something called breccia. It is rock that has been shattered into a million pieces and then instantly cemented back together by superheated, mineral-rich water. This is the fingerprint of hydrothermal activity. Geysers, hot springs, a system of high-pressure plumbing deep beneath the surface that exploded upwards. So, this was not a gentle process. It was violent, explosive. And according to dating, it happened around 99 million years ago, long after the dome was supposed to have formed. A lift and a quick shave does not explain the shattered rock and the boiling water. Something else was going on here. While geologists debated rock types, another group of scientists was on the ground. Archaeologists. They walked the dry riverbeds within the rings, and they found tools, thousands of them. These were not just simple rocks. They were Acheulean hand axes, beautifully crafted pear-shaped tools made by our early human ancestors, like Homo erectus. Some are dated to be over 300,000 years old. This place was a landmark, a shelter, a home. You can imagine them here, can't you? Staring up at the rings, just as we do. It proves humans have been drawn to this enigma for a very, very long time. But the official archaeological surveys focus almost entirely on these Stone Age tools. This is the part they do not talk about. Deeper in the sediment, they found things that do not fit the Stone Age narrative. They found evidence of ancient shorelines, not from a river, but from a large body of standing water. A lake or an inland sea? You can still trace them today on satellite images. Concentric rings of pale soil where water once lapped against the shore. And they found something else. A thick layer of sediment filled with marine fossils spread across the entire region. The unmistakable signature of a massive, catastrophic flood. The official story tells us this is a geological dome shaped by wind and rain over eons. But the ground tells a different story. A story of water. A story of a sudden, world-altering deluge. If the perfect rings were not carved by erosion alone, what if they were once filled with water, forming the canals of a great harbor? And if a cataclysmic flood did happen, what else might it have buried beneath the sand? The answer isn't a treasure chest of gold. It's a mountain of inconvenient facts. Facts that challenge not just the history of this one place, but the history of us all. In 360 BC, the Greek philosopher Plato wrote a detailed description of a lost city. He called it Atlantis. He gave its dimensions, its materials, and its layout with astonishing precision. And for 2,500 years, the world has treated it as a myth, a morality tale, a work of fiction. But what if it wasn't a story? What if it was a report? Let's put the official story of the geological dome aside for a moment and just look. Plato described the capital as a central island surrounded by 2 rings of land and 3 rings of water. A perfect bullseye. Now look at the Rishat structure from orbit. The similarities are not just vague, they are mathematically, structurally unnerving. The numbers, however, are where mainstream science draws the line. Plato's city was said to be 127 stadia across. That's roughly 23.5 kilometers. But the Rishat structure is 40 kilometers wide. A clear mismatch. Case closed, say the skeptics. But they stop reading there. Plato also describes a vast plain surrounding the city, which was itself encircled by mountains to the north. Look again. The mountains he describes are still there, exactly where he said they would be. What if the 40-kilometer structure wasn't just the city, but the entire capital district? Suddenly, the scale fits perfectly. And here's where it gets really specific. Plato wrote that the builders quarried stone directly from the rings themselves. One kind was white, another black, and the third was red. He was describing the blocks of the city. Now let's go back to the official geology reports from the 2009 Matten and Jebrack study, the ones that have nothing to do with Atlantis. The outer rings of the Rishat are made of pale Ordovician quartzite, white stone. The inner rings contain layers of red Proterozoic sandstone, red stone, and shot through the entire structure are volcanic intrusions of dolerite and carbonatites. Black stone. Think about that. A Greek philosopher writing 2,400 years ago correctly identified the 3 primary rock types of a remote structure in Mauritania he could have never possibly seen. How? But wait, that's not all. Plato mentions 2 springs on the central island, one of hot water and one of cold. It's a strange, specific detail for a work of fiction. Remember the breccia from Act 2? On the rock that was shattered and then instantly cemented back together by superheated, mineral-rich water? That is the unmistakable geological fingerprint of an explosive, high-pressure hydrothermal system. Geysers, hot and cold springs, exactly as described. So you have the layout, the scale, the materials, and the water source. 4 direct physical correlations between a 2,400-year-old text and a 40-kilometer-wide structure on the ground. So why isn't every archaeologist on Earth digging here? Because the official story is safe. The moment you say the A word, you're no longer a scientist. You are a fantasist. Your funding is cut. Your reputation is questioned. There are reports that a 2018 expedition equipped with ground-penetrating radar had its permits pulled by the Mauritanian government just days before they were scheduled to begin their survey of the structure's center. The official reason given was regional instability. But the area had been stable for years. What are they afraid someone might find? We have been looking for Atlantis, a city built by an advanced human civilization, Plato's people. But remember the tools found scattered across the rings? The Acheulean hand axes. They are up to 300,000 years old. That is long before modern humans, Homo sapiens, even evolved. They were made by an earlier species, Homo erectus. And here is the dark irony. We are searching for a lost city from our own human history, a legend of our own ancestors. But what if the structure is far, far older than any human civilization? What if Plato's story wasn't a memory of his own people's past, but a distorted, thousand-year-old echo of a civilization that wasn't even human at all? The thought is so vast, it feels like fiction. But the 300,000-year-old tools are there. Cold, hard stone in your hand. They force you to ask, who were they? What did they build? And why is no one allowed to look? For George S. Alexander, it wasn't just a question. It was an obsession. His 2008 expedition was supposed to be the one that provided answers. He spent years raising funds, assembling a team of top researchers. They had the permits. They had the equipment. Ground-penetrating radar designed to see what lies meters beneath the sand. And then, silence. The official story is that the project ran out of funding, but Alexander's private letters, published only after his death, tell a different story. One of bureaucratic walls and permits that were suddenly unavailable. I think about the frustration. To be standing on the edge of what could be the greatest discovery in human history, only to be told no. And here's the part nobody talks about. His team wasn't the only one. At least 2 other formal survey requests since 2010 have been quietly denied by Mauritanian authorities, citing geological preservation. But for every foreign explorer who comes and goes, there are people who have always been here, the Tuareg nomads. They call the structure Guelb er Rishat. They don't see Atlantis. They don't see a geological dome. They see a landmark, a place of power, a home. Imagine you grow up in its shadow. Your entire life, this impossible thing is just there, on the horizon. What stories would you tell your children about it? Their oral traditions, passed down for centuries, speak of ancient kings in a city swallowed by God's wrath, not in an ocean, but in a flood of sand. Listen to that again, a flood of sand. The sand is the real gatekeeper here. It moves, it covers, it preserves. The center of the eye, that strangely flat area, is filled with sediment dozens of meters deep in places. An entire city could be sleeping under there. Streets, homes, temples, perfectly preserved by the very thing that destroyed it. The few preliminary radar scans that were leaked before the 2008 project was shut down showed anomalies, straight lines, right angles, grid-like patterns that nature does not make. These files have never been officially released. You have to ask yourself, why not? What could be so sensitive that it's better to know nothing than to know the truth? You can stand on the edge of one of the rings today. You can pick up a stone tool, one last held by a hand 250,000 years ago. Feel its weight, the smooth, worked edges. You are holding a direct physical link to a mind from another time, perhaps another species. They looked up at the same sun. They felt the same wind. They walked this same ground. They had lives, families. They built something here, and we have allowed them to be forgotten, covered by sand and administrative silence. The real tragedy of the Eye of the Sahara isn't that we might have found Atlantis. The tragedy is we've found the ghost of another humanity, and we've chosen to look away. But choosing to look away is a luxury we no longer have, because the Sahara is waking up. The sand that buried this mystery is not permanent. It moves, it breathes. And the climate that created the desert is part of a colossal planetary cycle. This is a fact. As recently as 5,000 years ago, the entire region was green, a savanna teeming with life. This was the African humid period. Rivers flowed where there is now only sand. Think about what that means. The desert that guards the eye is not a constant. It is a phase. The Earth will tilt on its axis again, the rains will return, and the sand will retreat. What secrets will it give back when it does? We may not have to wait that long. We now have our own eyes in the sky. Satellites equipped with radar that can pierce the sand. They can map subtle changes in density below the surface. They can trace the ghosts of ancient riverbeds. They can see the corners of things that should not be there. The data is streaming down every single day. The official story of a geological dome remains the textbook answer. It's simple. It requires no uncomfortable questions about our past. But the structure itself refuses to be simple. It sits there, an impossible piece of evidence without a crime. A perfect circle that defies the chaos of nature. A library of stone that we have not yet learned how to read. We look at this 40-kilometer-wide feature and try to fit it into a box. An asteroid impact, a volcano, a natural dome, Atlantis. But maybe it's none of those things, or maybe it's a little of all of them. The hydrothermal explosions prove a violent energy source was here. The concentric rings are too perfect for random erosion. The ancient texts describe it with impossible accuracy. The human tools prove it was a landmark for hundreds of thousands of years. You don't have to believe in a single theory to believe that something extraordinary happened here. And here is the final, lingering thought. This structure has survived for nearly 100 million years. It has watched continents drift. It has seen ice ages come and go. It has witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, including perhaps a branch of humanity we have forgotten. It has seen it all. We are just the latest to stand before it and ask, why? The eye does not offer easy answers. It offers a sense of scale, a reminder that our planet has a history that is far deeper, far stranger, and far more complex than we have ever imagined. We spend billions scanning the stars for a signal, and for proof that we are not alone, a sign of other intelligence. But what if